Thank you so much, Program Director. Recognizing the presence of the Minister of Minerals and Energy, Mebo Holu Joy Kenewendo, let me say all protocol observed. I'm going to bore you by PowerPoint this morning, just a few slides, but I'll observe time. While they are loading it, let us start by an open acknowledgement that there's never really been a shortage of money around the world. But money is as we would learn, a very selective item that will choose to reside with projects in places that provide efficiency, convenience, and due consideration. So I think as Botswana, we can reflect on our performance, particularly around attraction of FDI, in comparison to some of the jurisdictions that one can mention, and say, how well have we really done in creating that conducive environment for money or capital formations to lend. Yesterday, I had the privilege of reading through a pamphlet from 1997 for the National Business Convention, as it was called, organized by BOKIM. I think the theme at the time was creating sustainable prosperity. And it was clearly mentioned in that pamphlet that a day of successful extraction by a mine is a day less in the life of that mine. So you can see that from that far back, we knew what our topmost priority is, economic diversification. But we stand here today and say, how much have we really progressed? And I think for that, I leave it to the room to decide. I was hoping that, it's up. The slides will be coming. So this thing called foreign direct investment is a very important factor in the development of any economy around the world. There we are showing FDI flows at the global landscape from the year 1999 almost to date. You can see that it's an up and down curve, but global FDI flows were up by 1% in 2024 to around 1.5 trillion. But you will see that when we factor out what we will call windfalls in economies, particularly the EU, in the renewable energy sector, the overall figure then reflects a decline of 9%. So over half of OECD economies saw lower inflows, particularly in EU countries, and FDI flows to G20 and non-OECD economies also dropped by 30%. So we are just trying to emphasize that it's an up and down movement. And currently, as we know, the world is facing challenges from all angles. So an economy like ours has to really do the right things in order to elevate in the positioning to attract FDI. Look at economies like Luxembourg, Canada, that actually permeated to the top of FDI attraction in the latter years. Here we are trying to show you a comparison of countries that are most attractive to FDI, comparing 2012 with the current situation. You will see that back in 2012, the US was in the lead. Surprise, surprise, we are all denominated in the dollar, and we would have thought the US is an economy that basically pushes out. But in the overall scheme, they are also attracting a lot of FDI, and they are consistent in achieving that, followed by China, Netherlands. But coming now to close to date, as I said, look at countries that have permeated the top 10, including Luxembourg, India, Canada, Mexico, and France. These are the sectors that are mainly attractive lately for FDI. In fact, when you look at the figures for 2024 as reflected, renewable energy is truly in the lead. all continents that we can assess would be attracting as the lead item of FDI into renewable energy, except America, that attracted topmost in the electrical and electronic sector. But the size of the square there basically reflects the positioning by sequence in attraction of FDI around the world. Now also looking at the trend from 2020 to date to say what are the top 10 countries that are most attractive to FDI. And you see there are consistent players there that are not changing, but there are new entrants. But a big question, ladies and gentlemen, where is Africa? Where is Africa? Africa at the moment attracts only 3.5% of global FDI inflows. 3.5, negligible indeed. But as you will see, on the trade side as well, it's not a very promising picture, while we are reflecting ourselves as the source of inputs into global value chains. So we have our work cut for ourselves, and maybe the solutions will come out of this conference. Now coming to Botswana, you will see also that this thing called FDI has been quite elusive, ups and downs. I think at the peak, you will see that projects like the relocation of the BS from London to Botswana actually contributed quite a lot. And then the Cut 8 in Jwaneng was also a key contributor. So it really says maybe in an approach that is led by development of projects is where we can really achieve a lot of FDI. We have introduced a curve, a graph just from around 2010 that tracks remittances from the world into Botswana. And you will see that remittances in total tend to land above actual FDI. These lands because of our diaspora, as well as remittances from frameworks such as the Botswana International Financial Services Center. So it really says if we are to be targeted in our strategies, let us try by all means to make sure that we nurture some of these frameworks so that we can develop and stimulate through those remittances. Here we were just sharing, there was a survey done on a population of respondents, and the question was, what really stimulates you to choose a location for placing your investment? And these are some of the responses categorized by the number of respondents. You will see that most people will choose to invest because of proximity to key markets or customers, and then followed by domestic market growth, skilled workforce availability, regulatory environment, and the list cascades down like that. So if we are to choose the areas of our policy intervention, I think this can be a very good guide because we want to really attract that much desired FDI. Moving quickly through it, the future prospects of FDI by sector. This was again from a survey conducted, and we see that in future, FDI will be forming predominantly in the renewable energy sector as it continues its dominance, but sectors like engines and turbines, which are relevant to mines, medical devices, biotechnology. I won't read the whole list, but this is where really the future focus has to lie. Here again, we switch to the trade side. This reflects global trade by size, by region. You will see that the Asian region is really leading with dominance of China at 3.38 trillion, followed by Europe, dominated by Germany. But again, the question comes, where is Africa, ladies and gentlemen? Africa in total accounts for about 2% of global trade. I ask the question again, why, if we are truly the source of raw materials that goes into global value chains. You know what it says? We are not value adding, and therefore the major economies reflected here may be taking our resources at very low prices, adding value, and then dominating global trade to them being in the lead like this. So some idea was touted recently that maybe we should come to a point where we don't export any of our resources unprocessed. I leave that idea with the House to say, is it time? If it is time, then let us do the right interventions to play our lead in global trade. This slide basically confirms and emphasizes the previous one, because it's basically saying most of the exporting African countries are basically exporting raw materials. There was a survey conducted on 148 countries, and it was realized that if a country has a lead export item if a lead export item for a country is not in the fuels or oil sector, it's in the agricultural sector or the mineral sector. So it means when you categorize all the countries around Africa, each one of the 148 surveyed are basically in the lead exporting raw materials. That is a picture that we have to change. And if we can effectively do that, I believe we can see Africa's main play in the space of global trade. Here we were zeroing into the mining sector in terms of our contribution to the economy. I won't dwell much, but you can see that it's an up and down cycle again. You can see the contribution to employment as well. Quite worrying that contribution to formal employment in Botswana is predominated by the wholesale and retail sector. So that's something that, again, we have to reverse, because it's really saying that there are opportunities in mining and quarrying, and we can elevate, I think, the level of employment there. You can see contribution to forex earnings by mining quite high, but the share of total workforce, I think, is so low to be a concern. This one I also won't dwell on, because I know my colleague from the Geoscience Institute will be coming later to share more with yourselves. So it was just to show the level of mineralization around the country, that while we are saying diversification from mining, we believe that it will be mining for a considerable length of time to come. So we just have to do the right things to diversify within mining. Investment opportunities in Botswana that we promote, mining and resource beneficiation. Thank you so much. Mining and resource beneficiation. As we said, we cannot totally discount mining. Therefore, there is a lot that we still have to do within mining as the opportunities come to bear. The energy sector, which has proved itself as the lead around the world, as I said, in every continent, renewable energy, except the United States of America. The International Financial Services Center that anchors us as a hub for services exports. Manufacturing, and in manufacturing, I always say we have to pick our niche very carefully because we can only thrive in manufacturing that, number one, pursues cross-border value chain linkages. Number two, utilizes our natural endowments, being the minerals and other resources that we have. And then number three, substitutes the huge import bill that we are currently having. So if there is an international interest attending the conference that is looking at investing in Botswana, these are the sectors that we can effectively speak to you about. And then motives or top reasons why to invest in Botswana. And since we are talking mining, we know that we are highly rated as a mining destination or jurisdiction by the Fraser Institute in their latest report. We can speak about our sound investment climate. We can speak about now PPP opportunities, PPP and other models of participation, because the government has said they are pursuing major projects, as well as looking at co-investing with the private sector, and then all the other known attributes like economic and political stability. I'm not going to speak about incentives because these ones I know everyone in the room knows, but I'm also not speaking about incentives because the new government of President Advocate Gideon Boko has really set us on a transformative agenda to turn all these incentives on their head. I speak there about IFSC. I can share with you that there is already an active consultancy in place to change this IFSC framework as you know it. Some concept paper is being produced, and I think for me to tell you how it pertains now might be worthless because very soon we expect a very huge change and transformation. So I had also prepared opportunity or incentives in the mining sector, which I will skip, and I know the strong bench of speakers for today will also come in and share how the landscape basically operates. One area that we have advocated has to be looked at as we are becoming a major investment destination is the signing of double taxation avoidance agreements so that we can facilitate dual business between Botswana and major investment destinations. Currently we have 21, but there are a number still under negotiation, but we are really pushing Minister Kenewendo for the government to really accelerate this area so that we can become more competitive. The other area, as I said, that really propels Botswana is the fact that we have signed a lot of bilateral, multilateral trade agreements, new entrant being the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, which Botswana is a full member of. We're really pushing to the private sector with the facilitation of government to make sure that we are really harnessing and stimulating our economy through this opportunity. Coming to a close, I think some of the areas that we can look at, and work has already started in many of these areas. Number one is to continuously invest our time and effort in improving the ease of doing business, improving the incentive packages to investors and exporters. We need to strengthen our models of participation, particularly PPP, show the private sector exactly where they can effectively participate, and private sector also develops appetite to come on board, to manage for macroeconomic stability at all times, and also accelerate digitization. And these, as you would have heard, are the priorities of the new government. And as I said, a lot of work has started, case in point, the IFSC, but many other interventions to come in the other areas. I'm going to skip what BITC is and the services. I see Mr. Facilitator coming through. My very last is to invite you to our Global Expo Botswana for this year. That will be taking place between the 8th and the 11th of October. And I think one key thing to look out for at that Global Expo is that we will be revealing a lot of very exciting and interesting projects that have decided to set up in Botswana to show you that while it's, the situation has been up and down in FDI, it's not doom and gloom. The investor appetite is really peaking, and you will get to see in October when we reveal the projects. I think the rest I can skip, and thank you so much for your attention.